So good afternoon, everyone. It's our team, and we're going to debate about single-sex education. On October 25th, 2006, the United States Department of Education published new regulations governing single-sex education in public schools. These new regulations were required by provision in the No Child Left Behind, a provision intended by its authors to legalize single-sex education in public schools. The new regulations allow co-educational public schools, specifically elementary and secondary, to offer single-sex classrooms under the following conditions. Number one is to provide a rationale for offering a single-gender class in the subject. A variety of rationale is acceptable. For example, if there were only a few girls taking a computer science class, so the school will offer an all-girl computer science class. Number two, provide a co-educational class in the same subject at a geographically accessible location. That location may be at the same school, but the school or school district may also elect to offer the co-educational alternative at a different school which is geographically accessible. Unfortunately, the term geographically accessible is not specified. Number three, conduct a review every 2 years to determine whether single-sex classes are still necessary to remedy whatever inequity prompted the school to offer the single-sex class in the first place. These regulations have been established, but the Department of Education has failed to communicate effectively with the general public or the concerned stakeholders regarding the evidentiary basis motivating the change in the regulations. Several studies have been made to determine whether it will be a good change to switch all public schools in the United States to single-sex schools. This change will improve the quality of education for all children in both academic and non-academic aspects of their lives. Our major claim today is that the government should set more concrete regulations about single-sex education in the country under the following secondary claims. Number one, gender stereotypes will be broken by single-sex education. Number two, social pressures about dating and appearance affect both girls' and boys' performance academically. Number three, single-sex education will give both girls and boys more freedom to explore their interests and abilities during their time in school. Besides the secondary claims, there are other supporting claims in this case. According to Dr. Leonard Sachs, director of the National Association for Single-Sex Public Education, stated that there are specific benefits for both girls and boys from single-sex education. But just to name a few academic and non-academic benefits: number one, grades and test scores will improve. Number two, fewer discipline referrals. Number three, expansion of educational opportunity. Number four, decreased risk of teenage pregnancy. Number five, leadership. And number six, self-esteem, image, and related issues. To support our first claim, according to Eva Pomerantz and in the Journal of Educational Psychology, Making the Grade While Feeling Distress, Gender Differences in Academic Performance and Internal Distress, girls and boys experience academic difficulties very differently. According to her, girls generalize the meaning of their failures because they interpret them as indicating that they have disappointed adults, and thus they are of little worth. Boys, in contrast, appear to see their failures as relevant only to the specific subject area in which they have failed. This may be due to the relative lack of concern with pleasing adults. In addition, because girls view evaluated feedback as diagnostic of their abilities, failure may lead them to incorporate this information into their more general view of themselves. Boys, in contrast, may be relatively protected from such generalization because they see such feedback as limited in its diagnostic view. Another supportive evidence for this claim is that in the educational review called Differences Between Pupils from Mixed and Single-Sex Schools in Their Enjoyment of School Subjects and Their Attitudes to Science and to School, single-sex education has been shown to broaden students' horizons, to allow them to feel free to explore their own strengths and interests, not constrained by gender stereotypes. Students at co-ed schools tended to have gender-typical subject preferences. Boys at co-ed schools liked math and science and did not like drama or languages, whereas boys at single-sex schools were more interested in drama, biology, and languages. Likewise, girls at girls-only schools were more interested in math and science than were girls at co-ed schools. We also brought a testimony from a historian who, he was telling me his experience from being in a single-sex school. His student Stephen Billy shared with us how attending a single-sex school changed his life. I began high school more shy than most adolescents, he recalls, but I did take the enormous step of joining the speech team, and that opened a new world to me. It led me to other activities and eventually to writing a column for the school newspaper. The capstone came during my senior year when I debated a theory teacher about the Vietnam War in front of our history classes. The event drew so much attention that other people wanted to attend. By the end of the day, we had been seen practically by everyone in the school. These experiences were an awakening. I strongly believe that they made possible the development of interests and skills that led me to undertake a PhD in history. When I think back on the catalyst joining the speech team, and I consider the fact that, for instance, in Illinois is dominated by girls, about 70 to 30, I cannot imagine that I would have joined the team in a co-ed school. Even leaving shyness out of the questions, it would have been a girls' team. Knowing the south side of Chicago as I do, I have to believe that any boy who joined the team would have been making himself a target. I need the chance to explore my own potential without worrying about looking foolish in front of the girls. Another piece of evidence that we have is that it's a study by the researchers at the University of Michigan, which compared graduates of Catholic single-sex high schools with graduates of Catholic educational private schools. Boys in the single-sex high schools score better in reading, writing, and math than the boys at co-ed high schools. Girls at the single-sex schools did better in science and reading than girls in co-ed schools. In fact, these researchers found that students at single-sex schools had not only superior academic achievement, but also had higher educational aspirations, more confidence in their abilities, and a more positive attitude towards academics than the students at co-ed high schools. And girls at the single-sex schools had less stereotype ideas about what women can and cannot do.